The silver ship moved through space like a gentle breeze through water. Ambassador Lirelei Moonwhisper stood at the viewing window watching the small blue planet grow larger. Her pointed ears twitched slightly as she thought about this new species they had found. Earth looked peaceful from here. The green and blue colors reminded her of her home world, where the great trees sang in harmony with the wind. Lirelei had done this many times before. In her 300 years of life, she had welcomed 47 different species into the Galactic Council. It was always the same pattern. First contact, then friendship, then peace. The new species would be amazed by the technology and wisdom of the older races. They would join the great family of civilized worlds and live in harmony forever. She turned from the window to look at her companion. Zixtha was a Vorthon who looked like she was made of living crystal. Light moved through her body in soft patterns that showed her emotions. Right now, the patterns were calm and happy. Zixtha was one of the best scientists in the galaxy. She had helped 20 different species learn to use advanced technology safely. The communications officer called from her station. She was a young elf with bright green eyes. "Ambassador, we are receiving a transmission from the humans," Lirelei smiled. "Put it through, please. Let us see what our new friends look like." The screen flickered and showed a woman in a blue uniform. She had short, dark hair and serious brown eyes. Behind her, other humans moved around what looked like a command center. Red lights blinked on. Panels, and everyone seemed very busy. "This is Commander Lisa Martinez of the Earth Defense Vessel New Horizon. You have entered our solar system without permission. State your purpose and intentions," Lirelei blinked in surprise. This was not how first contact usually went. Most species were curious or excited when the council arrived. Some were afraid, but they usually asked questions about who the visitors were. This human woman sounded like she was ready for a fight. "Greetings, Commander Martinez. I am Ambassador Lirelei Moonwhisper of the Galactic Council. We come in peace to welcome your species to the greater galactic community. We mean no harm to you or your world." Lisa Martinez looked at someone off-screen, then back at the camera. "Galactic Council. How many ships do you have? What are your weapons capabilities? Are there more of you coming?" Zixtha stepped forward. Her crystal body glowed brighter with confusion. "Commander, we are here to offer friendship and knowledge. We do not speak of weapons when we meet new friends." On the screen behind Lisa Martinez, a woman with red hair was working at a computer. Lirelei could see numbers and diagrams on the screen, but she could not understand what they meant. The red-haired woman kept looking at the communication screen, then back at her computer. She was writing things down very quickly. Lisa Martinez nodded to the red-haired woman. "This is my tactical officer, Katie Sullivan. She is analyzing your ship and capabilities. Standard first contact protocol for Earth Defense Forces." Lirelei felt a chill run through her. No species had ever analyzed Council ships for fighting capability during first contact. Most new species could barely understand how the ships worked, let alone figure out how to fight them. What kind of people immediately thought about fighting when meeting strangers from space? "Commander Martinez, perhaps we could meet in person. We could explain how peaceful contact works and answer your questions about the Council." Lisa Martinez looked at Katie Sullivan, who was still working at her computer. Katie showed Lisa something on her screen. Lisa nodded and looked back at the camera. "We agree to a meeting. However, it will be in neutral space near your ship, but not on it. We will meet in one of our shuttles. You can bring 2 representatives. We will bring 2 representatives. Both shuttles will be scanned for weapons. Is this acceptable?" Zixtha made a sound like wind chimes in a storm. In Vorthan culture, that meant extreme surprise. Lirelei had never heard of such complicated rules. For a first meeting, usually new species invited the Council ambassadors to their world or asked to visit the Council ship. These humans acted like they expected the meeting to be dangerous. "That is acceptable, Commander. We will prepare our shuttle when." The communication ended. Lirelei turned to Zixtha. "What do you think of these humans?" The crystal being's light patterns turned dark blue, which meant worry. "They think very differently from other species. Most new species trust the Council immediately when they see our advanced technology. These humans assume we might be hostile despite our peaceful approach." The ship's captain approached them. She was an elf with silver hair who had served on Council ships for 200 years. Ambassador, I have been monitoring their communications. Their military is mobilizing across their entire world. They are preparing for possible invasion. Lirale stared at her. Invasion. We sent them a message of peace and friendship. Yes, Ambassador, but they are treating our arrival as a potential military threat. Their ships are moving into defensive positions around their world. They are evacuating civilian populations from major cities. They are acting like they expect us to attack them. This was completely different from every other first contact in Council history. When the Council found new species, those species were usually amazed and grateful. They wanted to learn and grow and join the peaceful galactic community. These humans seemed to think that meeting aliens meant preparing for war. 2 hours later, Lirale and Zixtha sat in their shuttle waiting for the human shuttle to arrive. Through the window, they could see the human ship. It was smaller than Council vessels, but it looked much more aggressive. The hull had angles and edges that suggested it was built for fighting. Most Council ships were smooth and curved because they were built for exploration and trade. The human shuttle approached slowly. Lirale could see through its windows that the two humans inside were wearing what looked like armor. When the Council met new species, their representatives usually wore ceremonial robes or their finest clothing. These humans wore protection. The shuttles connected and the doors opened. Lisa Martinez stepped through, first followed by a woman with blonde hair who carried a device that was clearly some kind of scanner. The blonde woman immediately began scanning the Council shuttle's interior. "I am Dr. Amy Chen," the blonde woman said. "Earth's lead xenobiologist. I need to scan for biological hazards before we proceed." Zixtha's crystal body flashed with colors that meant she was confused and a little offended. "Dr. Chen, we have medical scanners that show we carry no diseases harmful to your species." Amy Chen looked up from her device. "Our protocols require independent verification. We have learned not to trust the word of strangers even when they claim to be peaceful." Lisa Martinez sat down across from Lirale. "Ambassador, we appreciate your offer to join this Galactic Council. However, we need to understand what membership would require from Earth. What are our obligations? What are our restrictions? What happens if we want to leave?" Once again, Lirale was surprised by the questions. Most species asked about the benefits of membership. They wanted to know about the technology and knowledge they would gain. These humans immediately asked about obligations and restrictions. They were thinking about problems that might happen in the future. Commander Martinez membership in the Council brings great benefits. Access to advanced technology that could solve your energy problems. Medical knowledge that could eliminate disease. Transportation systems that would let your people explore the galaxy. Katie Sullivan spoke for the first time. "What are the military restrictions on member species? Are we allowed to maintain our own defense forces? Who has authority over our military in times of crisis?" Zixtha's light patterns turned bright yellow, which meant shock. "Military restrictions. Katie Sullivan, no species has ever asked about military restrictions. The Council brings peace. There is no need for large military forces when all species live in harmony." Amy Chen looked up from her scanner. "Dr. Zixtha, how many wars has the Council fought in its history?" "Wars. The Council does not fight wars. We resolve disputes through discussion and compromise. Violence is not necessary when rational beings communicate with respect." Lisa Martinez and Amy Chen looked at each other. Amy Chen nodded slightly. "Ambassador Moonwhisper, we need time to discuss your offer with our government. We will contact you tomorrow with our decision after the humans left Lirale and Zixtha returned to their ship." Lirale went to her quarters to write her report to the Council. She described the humans as cautious and somewhat paranoid, but ultimately peaceful. She recommended standard integration protocols. She had no way of knowing that humanity's caution came from thousands of years of fighting each other for survival. She could not understand that when humans met strangers, their first thought was always how to protect themselves. In the report, she wrote that the humans seemed unnecessarily worried about military matters. She assumed this was because they were a young species who had not yet learned that advanced civilizations did not need to fight. She believed that once humans saw the benefits of Council membership, they would abandon their primitive focus on conflict and defense. Lirale had no idea that she had just met the most dangerous species in the galaxy. 6 months had passed since first contact, and Lirale was living on Earth trying to understand these strange humans. She had set up a diplomatic office in what the humans called New York City. Every day brought new surprises that made her more confused about human nature. This morning, she was meeting with Ambassador Rachel Brooks, who had been assigned as Earth's main contact with the Galactic Council. Rachel was a tall woman with gray hair who spoke softly but had eyes that seemed to see everything. Lyrelai had learned that Rachel used to be something called a military strategist before becoming a diplomat. Rachel, I have been reading your literature and watching your entertainment programs. I must ask you something that troubles me deeply. Rachel leaned forward in her chair. What troubles you, Lyrelai? Why are all your stories about fighting and conflict? Your movies show people shooting each other. Your books describe wars and battles. Your news programs report on arguments between your governments. Even your children's. Cartoons show characters fighting monsters or competing against each other. Rachel was quiet for a moment. She seemed to be thinking about how to explain something that was obvious to her but strange to others. Lyrelai, our stories reflect our history. Humans have always faced challenges and conflicts. We tell stories about overcoming problems because that is what humans do. We survive by learning from difficult situations. Lyrelai shook her head. But Rachel, your people have joined the Galactic Council now. You have access to advanced technology and peaceful solutions to problems. Why do you still focus on conflict when you could focus on harmony and growth? Because Lyrelai, conflict does not disappear just because you have better technology. There will always be problems to solve and challenges to face. Our stories teach us how to think and prepare for whatever might happen. Meanwhile, across the city, Dr. Zixtha was working with Dr. Jennifer Park in a research laboratory. Jennifer was a materials scientist who was helping to study council technology. Zixtha found Jennifer to be very intelligent but also very disturbing in the way she thought about everything. Jennifer, I am showing you our newest energy shielding technology. This creates a protective barrier that can deflect most forms of energy. Jennifer examined the device carefully. She made notes and asked detailed questions about how it worked. Then she asked something that made Zixtha's crystal body flash with alarm. Zixtha, what happens if you reverse the polarity and focus the energy outward instead of creating a protective barrier? Jennifer, that would turn the shield generator into a weapon. The energy beam would be powerful enough to destroy a building. Why would you want to know that? Jennifer looked surprised by the question. Because understanding how something can be weaponized helps us understand how to defend against it. If someone else figures out how to turn these shields into weapons, we need to know how to protect ourselves. Zixtha realized that Jennifer had not been trying to create a weapon. She had been trying to understand how others might create weapons from council technology. This kind of thinking was completely alien to Vorthon minds. When Zixtha's people received new technology, they thought about how to use it for research and exploration. Humans immediately thought about how the technology could be misused and how to defend against that misuse. Jennifer, your people think very differently from other species. Most civilized races trust that technology will be used peacefully. Jennifer stopped writing in her notebook. Zixtha, trust is earned, not given. We have learned that assuming good intentions can be dangerous. It is better to be prepared for problems that never happen than to be unprepared for problems that do happen. That evening, Lyrelai attended what humans called a sporting event. Rachel had invited her to watch something called a football game to help her understand human culture. Lyrelai expected to see some kind of artistic performance or intellectual competition, like the cultural events on her home world. Instead, she watched two groups of humans in armor crash into each other while trying to carry a ball to opposite ends of a field. The crowd around her screamed and cheered every time the players collided. Children in the audience wore smaller versions of the player uniforms and copied the aggressive movements they saw on the field. Rachel, this is terrible. Why do humans enjoy watching people hurt each other? Rachel looked at the field where a player was getting up after being tackled hard. Lyrelai, they are not trying to hurt each other. They are competing. Each team is trying to achieve their objective while preventing the other team from achieving theirs. It requires strategy and teamwork and physical skill. But Rachel, they are using force and aggression. On my world, we compete through poetry and music and artistic creation. We do not crash into each other. Lyrelai, humans enjoy competition that tests different kinds of abilities. This game tests their ability to work together under pressure and overcome physical obstacles. The players train for years to be strong, enough and smart enough to succeed. Lyreley watched a play where one team used deception to confuse the other team and score points. The crowd exploded with excitement. She realized that humans were not just enjoying the physical competition, they were enjoying the strategic thinking and tactical planning that each play required. After the game, Rachel took Lyreley to meet some of the families in the audience. She was introduced to parents who had brought their children to watch. One mother named Susan explained that her 8-year-old son played in a children's football league. "Susan, why do you want your child to participate in such an aggressive activity?" Susan looked at her son, who was wearing a small football uniform. "Because it teaches him important lessons. He learns to work with his teammates. He learns to think quickly when plans do not work. He learns that sometimes you get knocked down, but you have to get back up and keep trying." Lyreley realized that humans were not teaching their children to be violent. They were teaching them to think tactically and work together and persist when facing challenges. These were exactly the same lessons that human military forces taught their soldiers. Human children were being prepared from a very young age to think like warriors, even when they were just playing games. The next week, Zixta made a discovery that disturbed her even more. She had been studying human technology development and found something called video games. These were electronic entertainment programs that humans played for fun. She decided to try some of these games to understand human recreation. The first game she tried was called chess. 2 players moved pieces on a board, trying to capture the opponent's king. Zixta quickly realized that chess was a war simulation. Every piece represented a different type of military unit. The goal was to use strategy and tactics to defeat the enemy commander. "Jennifer, why do humans play war games for entertainment?" Jennifer was working at her computer but looked up to answer. "Chess teaches strategic thinking. You have to plan several moves ahead and anticipate what your opponent might do. You have to adapt your strategy when your opponent does something unexpected. But Jennifer, it is still simulating warfare. Even your entertainment prepares you for conflict." Jennifer thought about this for a moment. Zixta humans have always faced competition for resources and territory. Games like chess developed because they teach skills that help us survive and succeed. We enjoy games that challenge our minds the same way we enjoy sports that challenge our bodies. Zixta tried other human games and found the same pattern everywhere. Racing games taught quick reflexes and decision-making under pressure. Puzzle games taught problem-solving and persistence. Strategy games taught planning and resource management. Even simple children's games taught lessons about competition and overcoming obstacles. She realized that human entertainment was actually a form of training. While other species used recreation to relax and express creativity, humans used recreation to sharpen their mental and physical abilities. They were constantly preparing themselves for challenges even when they were supposed to be having fun. The most disturbing discovery came when Captain Maria Valdez visited the Council ship to observe alien military exercises. Maria was a career military officer who commanded one of Earth's defense vessels. The Council had agreed to let her watch their training to build trust between the species. The exercise was a mock battle between 2 groups of Council ships. The scenario involved protecting a civilian transport from pirates. Lyreley watched proudly as the Council forces used their advanced technology and peaceful tactics to resolve the situation with minimal conflict. After the exercise, Maria approached the Council officers with suggestions for improvement. "Admiral, Zorthak, your formation left your flanks exposed. A more aggressive enemy could have used that weakness to split your forces." Admiral Zorthak was a Centauri who considered his species to be the finest warriors in the galaxy. He had won many honors for his tactical brilliance. "Captain Valdez, our formation was designed to protect the civilian ship while maintaining defensive positions." "Yes, Admiral, but what if the enemy had used the civilian ship as bait? They could have hidden additional forces behind that asteroid. Field and attacked when your ships were committed to the rescue." The Admiral looked confused. "Captain Valdez, why would pirates use such elaborate deceptions? They want to steal cargo, not fight a battle. Complex tactics would risk their own losses for no additional gain." Maria stared at him. "Admiral, the goal of military tactics is to win with minimum risk to your own forces. Any enemy worth fighting will use every advantage they can find. You have to assume they will be creative and ruthless and well-prepared. Lyrelei listened to this conversation with growing alarm. Maria was describing military thinking that assumed enemies would be intelligent and dangerous. The Council military trained to fight opponents who were simple and predictable. Human military thinking assumed that opponents would be clever and determined and willing to use any tactic that might work. After Maria left the Council ship, Lyrelei spoke with Admiral Zorthak about the experience. "Admiral, what did you think of Captain Valdez's suggestions?" The Zentauri warrior's face showed confusion and concern. "Ambassador, her tactical thinking is very sophisticated, but also very disturbing. She assumes that enemies will use deception and complex strategies. She plans for opponents who think several steps ahead and adapt to changing conditions. Is that not good military planning, Admiral? Ambassador, most conflicts in the galaxy involve simple disagreements that can be resolved through superior technology or negotiation. Complex tactical thinking is not necessary when dealing with reasonable opponents. Captain Valdez thinks like someone who expects to fight an enemy as clever and determined as herself." That night, Lyrelei realized the truth that would change everything. Humans did not think like prey animals who ran from danger or pack animals, who fought simple territorial disputes. Humans thought like persistence hunters who tracked dangerous prey across vast distances using intelligence and endurance and perfect teamwork. Every aspect of human culture prepared them for this kind of thinking. Their entertainment taught strategic planning. Their sports taught teamwork under pressure. Their games taught tactical adaptation. Their stories taught persistence in the face of overwhelming challenges. Other species in the galaxy had evolved past the need for such thinking because their worlds had become peaceful. Humans had never evolved past it because their world had never become peaceful until very recently. They had spent thousands of years fighting each other with increasing sophistication and intelligence. Lyrelei began to understand that humans were not a primitive species learning to be civilized. They were a species of natural-born strategists who had been accidentally preparing for galactic warfare for their entire evolutionary history. She started to worry about what would happen if the galaxy ever faced an enemy that required the kind of tactical thinking that humans considered normal. But she still had no idea that such an enemy was already on its way. The alarms started screaming. At 3 a.m. Galactic Standard Time. Lyrelei woke up in her quarters aboard the Council flagship, feeling confused and frightened. She had never heard emergency alarms on a Council ship before. In 300 years of galactic peace, nothing had ever threatened the great vessels that kept order among the stars. She ran to the bridge still wearing her sleeping robes. The scene that greeted her was chaos. Officers who normally moved with calm dignity were rushing between stations shouting reports and updates. Admiral Zorthak stood in the center of it all, looking more worried than she had ever seen him. "Admiral, what is happening?" Zorthak turned to her with fear in his ancient eyes. "Ambassador, we are under attack. An unknown fleet has entered the Kepler sector and is destroying everything in their path. They have already wiped out 3 Council outposts and are moving toward the core worlds." Lyrelei felt her legs go weak. "Attack? Who would attack the Council? All species in the galaxy are members or allies. Who could this be?" "We do not know. Ambassador." They appeared without warning and began firing immediately. "They have not responded to any communication attempts. They seem to want only destruction." On the main screen, Lyrelei could see tactical displays showing the movement of the enemy fleet. Red dots representing hostile ships were spreading across star systems like a disease. Blue dots representing Council. Forces were moving to intercept, but many of the blue dots were disappearing as she watched. Communications Officer Kayla Neth called from her station. "Admiral, we are receiving distress calls from the Vega defense platform. They report enemy vessels, 8 feet tall, covered in natural armor. The beings are calling themselves the Drakmor, and they are demanding unconditional surrender." Admiral Zorthak straightened his shoulders. "Signal the fleet. All available ships will converge on the Vega system. We will show these Drakmor the power of united civilized worlds." 4 hours later, the Council fleet dropped out of hyperspace near Vega. Lyrelay stood on the bridge watching the tactical display as Admiral Zorthak deployed his forces. The Council had assembled the largest fleet in galactic history. 300 ships with the most advanced technology in the galaxy prepared to face an enemy that had appeared from beyond known space. The Drakmor fleet was smaller, but their ships looked wrong somehow. Where Council vessels were smooth and elegant, the Drakmor ships were angular and aggressive. They looked like they had been built for fighting and nothing else. Lyrelay could see weapon ports covering every surface and armor plating that seemed to absorb the light of nearby stars. "Admiral, they are moving to attack formation." Zorthak nodded confidently. "Activate defensive screens. Prepare to demonstrate Council superiority. These primitives will learn that violence cannot overcome advanced civilization." The battle began when the Drakmor fleet suddenly accelerated beyond what should have been possible. Instead of the careful maneuvering that characterized Council, warfare. The enemy ships charged directly at the Council formation. They ignored the warning shots and demands for surrender that preceded normal galactic conflicts. "Admiral, they are targeting our command ships." Impossible. Standard galactic warfare protocols require that command vessels be protected. They should be attacking our forward scouts first. The first Council ship died in a blaze of energy that tore through its shields like they were not even there. Then another ship exploded and another. The Drakmor were not following any of the rules that had governed warfare in the galaxy for 1,000 years. "Admiral, they are using ramming attacks. The lead Drakmor ship just crashed into the cruiser Starlight and destroyed them both." Zorthak stared at the display in shock. "Ramming attacks. That is suicide. Why would they sacrifice their own ships?" Lyrelay watched in horror as the careful formations that had protected the galaxy for centuries began to fall apart. The Council ships were trying to fight an enemy that used tactics no civilized species would consider. The Drakmor seemed willing to accept any losses as long as they could damage their opponents. "Admiral, we are receiving a transmission from Captain Beth Morgan of the human vessel Earth's Fury. She is requesting permission to engage." Lyrelay had forgotten that humans had sent ships to observe the battle. She looked at the tactical display and saw a small group of human vessels at the edge of the battle area. They had been watching and analyzing the fighting for the past hour. "Tell Captain Morgan to maintain safe distance. This battle will be over soon, and we do not want human ships caught in the crossfire." But the battle was not going well for the Council. The Drakmor had adapted to Council tactics within minutes, and were now using the Council's own careful formations against them. When Council ships tried to protect civilian vessels, the Drakmor used the civilians as shields. When Council ships tried to maintain formation, the Drakmor split their forces and attacked from multiple directions. The worst moment came when the Drakmor began boarding actions. Council ships were not designed to repel invaders because galactic civilization had not seen boarding actions in 600 years. The Drakmor warriors were huge creatures in powered armor who fought with weapons that seemed primitive but were devastatingly effective in close combat. "Admiral, the flagship Harmony is being boarded. They report that Drakmor warriors are fighting in the corridors." On the screen, they could see footage from inside the Harmony. Tall, armored figures were moving through elegant Council corridors, like death itself. Council security forces, with their ceremonial weapons and peaceful training, were no match for beings who had clearly spent their entire existence learning to kill. "Admiral, we need to retreat. Our forces are being destroyed." Zorthak looked around his bridge at officers who had never experienced defeat. His species had been the strongest warriors in the galaxy, but they had not fought a real war in centuries. Their military training was based on the assumption that superior technology and peaceful intentions would always win against primitive aggression. Signal general retreat. All ships fall back to Rally Point Gamma. As the Council fleet began its desperate retreat, Lyrelay saw something that made her heart stop. The human ships were not retreating. Instead, they were moving closer to the battle area and taking up positions between the fleeing Council vessels and the pursuing Drakmor. "Admiral, the humans are not following retreat orders." Captain Beth Morgan's voice came over the communication system. "Admiral Zorthak, this is Captain Morgan. We are moving to provide cover for your retreat. Request tactical information on enemy capabilities." "Captain Morgan, your ships are too small. To engage this enemy, you must retreat with the rest of the fleet." "Negative, Admiral. We did not come here to run away from a fight." Lyrelay watched the tactical display as the tiny human fleet spread out in a formation she had never seen before. Instead of the careful protective formations that Council ships used, the humans had arranged themselves to create overlapping fields of fire. They were not trying to protect themselves. They were trying to create maximum damage to an attacking enemy. The Drakmor fleet noticed the humans and turned to attack them. Lyrelai expected to see the human ships destroyed in minutes, just like the Council vessels had been. Instead, something completely unexpected happened. The humans opened fire first. Council military doctrine required warning shots and demands for surrender before engaging in combat. Humans skipped all of that and went directly to maximum firepower. Their weapons were smaller than Council systems, but they used them with an accuracy and intensity that was shocking to watch. Admiral, the humans are targeting Drakmor engines and weapon systems. They are not trying to capture or disable the enemy ships. They are trying to destroy them completely. More disturbing was the way the humans moved. Instead of maintaining formation, they split up and attacked from multiple angles. When the Drakmor tried to ram them, the human ships simply were not there anymore. They moved like they had anticipated every possible enemy action and prepared counters in advance. Captain Sandra Wells was commanding one of the human destroyers, and her voice came over the communication channel. All human vessels, this is Wells. Enemy pattern alpha confirmed. Recommend Tactics 7 with modifications for heavy armor. Lyrelai realized that the humans had a name for the tactics the Drakmor were using. Somehow they had recognized the enemy strategy and immediately implemented a counter-strategy that had been prepared in advance. The humans had tactics for fighting enemies that the Council had never imagined. Admiral, the Drakmor are withdrawing from the human engagement zone. On the screen, Lyrelai could see that the Drakmor fleet was pulling back from the human ships. For the first time since the battle started, the enemy seemed uncertain. They had expected to face opponents like the Council forces who fought with restraint and followed civilized rules. Instead, they had encountered opponents who fought to win using any methods that worked. The human ship Earth's Fury moved alongside the EO Council flagship, and Captain Beth Morgan appeared on the main screen. She was a woman with short gray hair and calm eyes that reminded Lyrelai somehow of a predator studying its prey. Admiral Zorthak, we need to discuss strategy. This enemy is using combined arms tactics with psychological warfare elements. They are testing your responses to develop better attacks. Admiral Zorthak looked confused by her words. Captain Morgan, I do not understand these terms. What is combined arms tactics? Admiral, they are using different types of ships and weapons in coordinated attacks designed to overwhelm your defenses. The ramming attacks are not desperate moves. They are calculated to force you into defensive positions that make you vulnerable to their main battle line. Lyrelai felt cold fear spreading through her body. Captain Morgan was describing the Drakmor tactics like she understood exactly how they worked. The humans had recognized immediately what it had taken the Council hours of fighting to learn. Captain Morgan, how do you know so much about enemy tactics? Beth Morgan looked at her with those calm predator eyes. Ambassador, because these are not alien tactics. This is how humans have been fighting each other for thousands of years. The Drakmor fight like us. The communication channel suddenly filled with reports from across the galaxy. Drakmor fleets were attacking Council worlds everywhere. They had not sent one exploration force to test Council defenses. They had launched a full-scale invasion designed to conquer the entire galaxy. Admiral Zorthak turned to Lyrelai with desperation in his voice. Ambassador, we need to contact Earth immediately. We need more human ships and we need human tactical advisors. The Council military does not know how to fight this kind of enemy. Lyrelai realized that everything had changed in a single day. The peaceful galaxy she had known for 3 centuries was gone forever. The Council that had maintained order through wisdom and advanced technology was helpless against an enemy that understood something the Council had forgotten. The Council had forgotten how to fight a war, but humans remembered. Humans had never stopped preparing for exactly this kind of conflict. The species that had worried the Council with their focus on military matters were now the galaxy's only hope for survival. Captain Morgan's voice came over the channel again. Admiral, we are receiving reinforcements from Earth. Admiral Nicole Hayes is en route with the full human battle fleet. She has orders to do whatever is necessary to stop this invasion. Lyrelai looked at the tactical display where red dots representing Drakmor fleets were spreading across the galaxy like blood. Then she looked at the small cluster of blue dots representing human ships that were moving to intercept them. For the first time in her life, she found herself hoping that humans were as dangerous as she had begun to suspect they might be. Because if they were not dangerous enough, the galaxy was going to fall to an enemy that fought like they did, but had no reason to show mercy to anyone who stood in their way. Admiral Nicole Hayes stood on the bridge of her flagship studying the tactical display that showed the state of the galaxy. Red zones marked systems controlled by the Drakmor. Yellow zones showed areas under attack. The amount of red was growing every hour as the invaders swept through council space like a wildfire through dry grass. Nicole was a woman in her 50s with silver hair and eyes that had seen too many battles. She had fought in every major conflict that Earth had experienced since joining the galactic community. Now she was looking at a war unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. "Admiral, we are receiving communication from Ambassador Moonwhisper aboard the Council flagship." Nicole nodded to her communications officer. "Put her through." Lyrelai appeared on the main screen looking exhausted and frightened. Behind her, Nicole could see the bridge of the council ship where alien officers moved with the controlled panic of people who did not know what to do next. "Admiral Hayes, thank you for coming. The situation is worse than we initially reported. The Drakmor have taken 12 systems and are moving toward the council homeworld. Our military forces cannot stop them." Nicole studied the tactical data that was being transmitted from the council ship. The Drakmor were using a strategy that she recognized immediately. They were not trying to hold territory. They were trying to break the will of their enemies by demonstrating that resistance was hopeless. "Ambassador, I need to speak with your military commanders about their defensive strategy." Admiral Zorthak appeared on the screen next to Lyrelai. The proud Zentauri warrior looked like he had aged years in the past few days. "Admiral Hayes, we have tried everything. Our weapons cannot penetrate their armor. Our shields cannot stop their attacks. They fight like madmen who do not fear death." Admiral Zorthak: "They are not madmen. They are using classic shock tactics combined with psychological warfare. The goal is to make you afraid to fight them. Have you considered offensive operations against their supply lines?" The alien admiral looked confused. "Supply lines? Admiral Hayes, we do not know where they come from or how they resupply their forces. They appeared from outside the galaxy without warning." Nicole realized that the council military was thinking defensively when they needed to think offensively. They were trying to protect what they had instead of attacking what the enemy needed. "Admiral, every military force requires supplies and communication. The Drakmor have to be getting resources from somewhere. We need to find their supply bases and destroy them." "Admiral Hayes, how do we find their supply bases when we do not even know what they look like?" Nicole smiled for the first time since the war began. "Admiral, we make them show us. Captain Martinez, bring us alongside the council flagship. I want to brief their commanders on total war doctrine." An hour later, Nicole was standing in the council ship's briefing room facing military officers from a dozen different species. None of them looked like they understood what they were fighting or how to fight it. They were trained for peacekeeping operations and diplomatic conflicts, not for total war against an enemy that wanted to destroy them. "Commanders, the Drakmor are using human military doctrine against you. They understand that the fastest way to win a war is to break your will to fight. Every attack is designed to make you more afraid and less willing to resist." Captain Veltar of the Zentauri Defense Forces spoke up. "Admiral Hayes, we are not afraid to fight. We simply do not know how to fight an enemy that ignores all civilized rules of warfare." Captain Veltar: "There are no civilized rules in total war. The Drakmor will use every tactic that gives them an advantage. If you want to beat them, you have to be willing to do the same thing." Nicole activated a holographic display that showed human military strategy. "This is called strategic bombing. Instead of fighting their ships directly, we target their infrastructure. We find their shipyards and fuel depots and command centers, and we destroy them." The alien officers looked horrified. Commander Talaneth of the Vorthon fleet spoke for all of them. "Admiral Hayes, that would cause massive civilian casualties. We cannot attack non-military targets." "Commander, the Drakmor are not making that distinction. They have already destroyed civilian populations on every world they have taken. If you fight by different rules than your enemy, you will lose." Lyrelai was present at the briefing and she looked sick. Admiral Hayes, you are asking us to become like the Drakmor. You want us to abandon everything that makes us civilized? Nicole looked at her with the patience of someone explaining something obvious to a child. Ambassador, I am asking you to survive. The Drakmor are not interested in your civilization. They want to destroy it completely. You can fight them with their own methods, or you can die according to your principles. The next phase of the war began when human intelligence officers led by Commander Stephanie Price began analyzing Drakmor communication patterns. Unlike Council forces who had assumed the enemy was too alien to understand, humans approached the problem like they were fighting other humans. Admiral, we have identified what appears to be their command structure. The Drakmor use military ranks and chain of command similar to human systems. If we eliminate their senior commanders, their forces should become less coordinated, Nicole nodded approvingly. Prepare targeted strikes on enemy command ships. Work with Captain Laura Kim's Special Forces teams to develop assassination missions. Against Drakmor leadership, Lyrelay was present during this planning session, and she felt another piece of her worldview die. Admiral Hayes, you are talking about assassinating enemy leaders. That is not warfare, that is murder. Captain Laura Kim looked up from her tactical planning. Ambassador, assassination of enemy commanders is a standard military tactic. It disrupts their decision-making process and forces them to spend resources protecting their leadership instead of attacking us. Captain Kim, civilized species do not kill enemy leaders. We capture them and negotiate for peace. Laura Kim stared at her. Ambassador, the Drakmor have not responded to any negotiation attempts. They kill everyone on every world they take. What exactly do you think you would negotiate with them, the Bi? First human offensive operation took place in the Rigel system, where a Drakmor supply fleet was refueling. Captain Paula Rodriguez led a squadron of human destroyers in a surprise attack that destroyed the enemy ships before they could react. For the first time since the war began, a Drakmor force had been completely eliminated. The attack also provided intelligence about Drakmor capabilities. Dr. Karen Mitchell worked with Zixtha to analyze captured enemy technology and discovered something that changed the entire war. Admiral, the Drakmor are not as advanced as we thought. Their weapons and armor are actually less sophisticated than Council technology. They are winning because they use their equipment more effectively, not because they have better equipment, Nicole studied the analysis reports. Dr. Mitchell, what do you mean by more effectively? Admiral, they design everything for maximum combat. Efficiency. Their ships have no crew quarters or recreational facilities. Everything is weapons and armor and engines. They sacrifice comfort and safety to achieve superior firepower. Zixtha added her own observations. Admiral Hayes, the Drakmor, do not care about the survival of individual warriors. Their tactics assume heavy casualties will be acceptable as long as they achieve their objectives. Nicole realized that the Drakmor had an advantage that the Council could never match. They were willing to accept losses that civilized species would consider unacceptable. But humans understood that kind of thinking because they had used it themselves when survival was at stake. Dr. Mitchell, can we combine human tactical doctrine with Council technology to create weapons systems that match Drakmor effectiveness? Yes, Admiral. We can modify Council energy shields to create directed energy weapons. We can upgrade Council sensors to provide targeting information for precision strikes. The technology exists, but no one has ever thought to use it this way. The breakthrough came when the combined human and Council forces engaged the Drakmor at the Battle of Centauri Prime. The Council homeworld was under siege, and the defenders were facing complete annihilation when the human fleet arrived. Admiral Hayes implemented a strategy that shocked everyone, including her own officers. Instead of trying to protect the planet, she divided her forces and attacked the Drakmor fleet from 6 different directions simultaneously. The enemy was forced to split their attention and could not concentrate their firepower effectively. Captain Michelle Barnes commanded one of the attacking squadrons, and her voice came over the communication channel during the battle. Admiral, this is Barnes. Enemy formation is breaking up. They cannot maintain coordination when attacked from multiple vectors, confirmed Barnes. All squadrons press the attack. Do not give them time to reorganize. Lyrelay watched the battle from the Council flagship and saw something that made her understand the true nature of human warfare. The humans were not trying to win an honorable victory. They were trying to destroy the enemy so completely that no Drakmor force would ever again threaten the galaxy. Human ships that had been damaged beyond repair rammed enemy vessels instead of retreating. Human pilots who had lost weapons systems used their ships as guided missiles. The humans fought with the same total commitment that the Drakmor had shown, but with superior technology and tactical coordination. The most terrifying moment came when the Drakmor attempted to retreat. Admiral Hayes did not let them go. She ordered her forces to pursue and destroy every enemy ship to prevent them from regrouping and attacking somewhere else. Admiral Hayes, the enemy is fleeing. Should we allow them to withdraw? Negative. Pursue and destroy all hostile contacts. We cannot allow any Drakmor forces to escape and report our capabilities to their main fleet. When the battle ended, not a single Drakmor ship remained intact. The human fleet had achieved what military historians would later call perfect victory. Total destruction of enemy forces with minimal friendly casualties. Admiral Zorthak approached Nicole after the battle looking like he had seen something that changed his understanding of the universe. Admiral Hayes, your forces fought with incredible efficiency. But I must ask, why you did not accept their surrender when they tried to retreat? Nicole looked at him with those calm, predator eyes that Lirelai had learned to fear. Admiral Zorthak, the Drakmor do not take prisoners. They do not negotiate surrender. They only understand total victory or total defeat. If you show them mercy, they interpret it as weakness and use it against you. But Admiral Hayes, what happens to our civilization if we adopt their methods completely? Nicole was quiet for a moment as she considered the question. Admiral, that depends on whether we remember why we are fighting. The Drakmor fight to conquer and destroy. We fight to protect and preserve. As long as we remember the difference, we can use their methods without becoming like them. Lirelai realized that humans had solved a problem that had destroyed every other civilization that faced the Drakmor. They could think like their enemies without becoming their enemies. They could use total war tactics while fighting for peaceful purposes. But the war was not over. Intelligence reports indicated that the Drakmor forces they had fought were only the advanced scouts for a much larger invasion fleet. The real test of human military capabilities was still coming, and when it arrived, the galaxy would learn whether humans were truly as dangerous as they were beginning to appear. The final invasion fleet arrived 3 months later, and it was larger than anything the galaxy had ever seen. Thousands of Drakmor ships emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the galaxy and began moving toward the core worlds in a formation that stretched across multiple star systems. The message they broadcast was simple and terrifying. Surrender, now or watch your worlds burn. We have conquered 7 galaxies. Your resistance has only delayed the inevitable. Admiral Nicole Hayes received the message aboard her flagship as the combined human and council fleets prepared for what everyone knew would be the final battle. The tactical displays showed odds that should have been hopeless. The Drakmor outnumbered the defenders 10-1, and their ships were the largest and most powerful they had yet deployed. Admiral, they are demanding unconditional surrender of all civilized worlds. They want us to disarm our fleets and submit to occupation. Nicole studied the enemy formation and recognized the psychology behind it. The Drakmor were trying to win. Through intimidation one final time, they wanted their opponents to surrender without fighting because even they understood that this battle would be costly. Signal all fleet commanders, we do not negotiate with genocidal invaders. All units, prepare for engagement. Lirelai was present on the bridge as an official observer from the Galactic Council. In the past months, she had watched humans transform the galaxy's approach to warfare. Now she was about to see whether their methods could succeed against odds. That seemed impossible. Admiral Hayes, the Council wishes to know if you believe victory is possible against such overwhelming numbers. Nicole looked at her with the calm confidence that Lirelai had learned to associate with human military leadership. Ambassador, victory is always possible when you are fighting for survival. The question is what price you are willing to pay for it. The battle began when the Drakmor fleet split into 3 massive formations and attacked the core world simultaneously. Admiral Hayes responded with a strategy that violated every principle of conventional warfare. Instead of concentrating her forces to defend the most important targets, she spread them out to attack the enemy from unexpected directions. Captain Rebecca Turner commanded the 1st Squadron to engage the enemy. Her voice came over the communication channel as her ships dove into the heart of the largest Drakmor formation. Admiral, this is Turner. Enemy point defense systems are impressive, but they are designed to stop conventional attacks. Recommend implementation of Plan Chaos. Confirmed. Turner, all squadrons implement Plan Chaos. Let them see what humans do when the odds are impossible. Lyrelay watched in fascination and horror as the human fleet abandoned all defensive thinking. Every ship became a guided missile aimed at the most dangerous enemy targets. Damaged vessels, rammed enemy command ships. Ships that had lost weapons used their engines as bombs. Entire squadrons sacrificed themselves to create openings for follow-up attacks. But this was not the desperate last stand that it appeared to be. Every human sacrifice was calculated to achieve maximum damage to enemy capabilities. They were not dying pointlessly. They were trading their lives for strategic advantages that would help the remaining forces win the battle. Colonel Janet Wright led the boarding actions against enemy capital ships, and her reports revealed the true genius of human tactical thinking. Admiral, the Drakmor did not expect us to board their ships during a fleet battle. Their internal security is designed to repel boarding parties after a ship has been disabled. We are taking their command centers while they are still fighting. The turning point came when the humans revealed weapons that they had developed but never used. Captain Amanda Foster activated something called a gravity bomb that collapsed an entire Drakmor battle group into a single point of space. The weapon was so destructive that it horrified even the human crews who used it. Admiral, this is Foster. Gravity bomb deployment successful. Enemy Formation 7 has been eliminated. However, I must report that this weapon should not exist. It is too dangerous to use near-inhabited systems. Nicole's response revealed something about human nature that chilled Lyrelay to her core. Confirmed Foster. Authorized weapons release for all experimental systems. We cannot hold anything back. The humans had prepared for this possibility. They had created weapons so terrible that they would only use them when facing total extinction. The galaxy was about to learn that human military engineering had no limits when applied to the problem of destroying enemies. The next weapon was even worse. Captain Lisa Martinez deployed what she called a viral ship killer that infected enemy computer systems and turned Drakmor vessels against each other. Within minutes, entire enemy formations were firing on their own allies as their navigation and targeting systems were corrupted by human cyber warfare. Admiral, this is Martinez. The viral attack is spreading faster than projected. Enemy fleet cohesion is breaking down across multiple sectors. They do not know which of their own ships they can trust. But the most devastating revelation came when the Drakmor commander attempted his final gambit. Faced with the complete destruction of his invasion fleet, he activated weapons that would sterilize every inhabited world in the galaxy rather than accept defeat. The message came over all communication channels, spoken by a voice that sounded like grinding stone. If we cannot have this galaxy, then no one will have it. In 30 minutes, every world with intelligent life will be destroyed. This is the price of resistance. Lyrelay felt her heart stop. The Drakmor had prepared for the possibility of total defeat by building weapons that could commit genocide on a galactic scale. Even in losing, they would deny their enemies any victory. But Admiral Hayes responded to this threat with calm efficiency that was somehow more terrifying than the Drakmor. Ultimatum. All human vessels, this is Hayes. The enemy has activated planet-killer weapons. Implement protocol extinction prevention. Authorization code, Omega 77. What happened next would be remembered as the moment when the galaxy learned the true meaning of human military preparation. Every human ship in the fleet activated systems that had been hidden even from their Council allies. They had not only anticipated this exact scenario, but had prepared specific countermeasures for it. Captain Sandra Wells coordinated the operation. Admiral, all human vessels report ready for temporal displacement. We can intercept the planet-killer weapons before they reach their targets, but the energy requirements will destroy most of our fleet, confirmed Wells. Execute temporal displacement. Save the galaxy. Lyrelay watched in awe as human ships began, moving faster than the laws of physics should have allowed. They were using technology that bent space and time to reach the planet-killer weapons before those weapons could reach their targets. The cost was terrible. Most of the human fleet was torn apart by the forces they were manipulating, but it worked. Every planet-killer weapon was intercepted and destroyed by humans who sacrificed their lives to save civilizations they had never seen. In the end, the Drakmor invasion fleet found itself facing the impossible choice between surrender and complete annihilation. The Drakmor commander's final transmission revealed the psychology that had driven his people to conquer 7 galaxies. How is this possible? We are the ultimate warriors. We have never been defeated. How can primitive species match our determination and exceed our capabilities? Admiral Hayes responded with words that would echo through galactic history. Because we do not fight to conquer. We fight to protect. And there is no force in the universe more dangerous than someone protecting what they love. The surrender came. 12 hours later, when the surviving Drakmor realized that humans would continue fighting until every invader was dead. They had expected their final threat to break human will, the same way it had broken the will of dozens of other species. Instead, they discovered that humans became more dangerous when facing extinction, not less dangerous. In the aftermath of the war, Lyrelai found herself working with human leaders to establish a new galactic order. The Galactic Council still existed, but it now had a military arm commanded by humans who understood warfare in ways that other species could not comprehend. Admiral Hayes became the first supreme military commander of the United Galactic Defense Force. Her headquarters was established on a space station that orbited no world and belonged to no single species. From there, she coordinated the defense of a galaxy that had learned it needed protectors who thought like warriors. Captain Rebecca Turner was given command of the new exploration fleets that would search for other threats beyond the galactic rim. Dr. Amanda Foster became head of the Strategic Defense Institute, where the most brilliant minds in the galaxy studied warfare and weapons to ensure that no future enemy would find them unprepared. But the most important change was in how the galaxy viewed conflict itself. Lyrelai established new diplomatic protocols that recognized the reality of hostile contact. The peaceful optimism that had characterized galactic civilization was replaced by careful preparation and constant vigilance. Ambassador Moonwhisper, Admiral Hayes said during one of their planning sessions, "I want you to understand something important. Humans did not want to become the galaxy's warriors. We would prefer to explore and learn and create like your people do. But someone has to be prepared for the enemies who do not want peace." Lyrelai nodded, understanding something that would have been impossible for her to accept before the war. "Admiral Hayes, I have learned that peace is not the absence of conflict. Peace is what happens when those who would destroy it are stopped by those strong enough to defend it." The final scene of the story took place on Earth, where Lyrelai was visiting a human school. She watched children playing games that taught strategic thinking and tactical coordination. But she also saw them learning about art and music and literature. They were being prepared for war, but not consumed by it. A young girl named Katie approached her after class and asked a question that summarized everything the galaxy had learned. "Ambassador Lyrelai, my teacher says that humans are the galaxy's protectors now. Does that mean we are the bad guys?" Lyrelai knelt down to look into the child's eyes. "Katie, humans are not bad guys. You are the people who stand between the good guys and the bad guys. You are the ones who make it possible for the rest of us to remain good." The story ended with Lyrelai's final report to the Galactic Council. She wrote that no one had anticipated humanity's lethal potential because they had misunderstood what made humans lethal. It was not their weapons or their aggression or their willingness to fight. It was their absolute refusal to let evil triumph over good, regardless of the cost. The galaxy was safer now, protected by warriors who understood that the price of peace was eternal vigilance. And at the center of that protection were humans who had spent their entire evolutionary history learning to defeat enemies who wanted to destroy everything they valued. The galaxy had found its guardians, and those guardians would never let the darkness win.